Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Militiaman and Crew. It's Sunday, it's the 13th, and I'd just like to say thank you for being with us at patreon.com, and I'd like to say thank you to all of my team members and everybody in Discord. Thank you for your appreciation. Everybody at Patreon, of course, you guys are all included, but thank you. Thank you for the kind comments. Thank you for all that good stuff. Hey, but you know, I just want to say one thing. We're going to have some really good information here tonight, and so I hope you guys will stick with me and enjoy it. Just another thing, too, is I like to remind you guys is that my history with the Iraqi dinar and other things has been, you know, an ongoing process. I've been in business for 33 years, but I also have interests in other things, and I've always had an interest in gold. And one of the reasons why is because gold is real money. Same with silver. It has been for millennia, you know. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why I want to bring you guys to the point is that I'm proud that Noble Gold is a sponsor for Militiaman and Crew. You're probably thinking your 401k is safe, that it'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in the corporate boardroom to shift retirement and investment risk onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and uncertainty you can't control until now. Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect their future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone into something real. Get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at noblegoldinvestments.com and they'll send you 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins free. So look, hey, Iraq is basically navigating specific economic and legal developments, and we're going to talk about some of that trade landscape that they're going through tonight. And we're going to do that in brief. But look, they have recent tariff agreements between the United States, and what does it represent? It's significant. It's significant in that it's a kind of a milestone, which is fostering their relationship, the United States and Iraq. And as you all know, that trade exchange takes 2 to tango. And the United States and Iraq have a partnership. And that dates back a long time, but the strategic framework from 2008 probably sets the stage, and it hasn't really changed much. I think they went from the DFI fund to another name for their account, but it's at the New York Federal Reserve Bank. And that's probably may change, but maybe not. Because there's some components to that goes back as far as the Paris Club. But I'm not getting into that. But look, some of the things that I'm talking about today is interesting is because price controls. They have a new team hit the streets today to keep prices contained because they don't want people overpricing. Interestingly enough, that does, if you Google it or if you want to go to whatever AI system you work with or anything like that for information, ask proper questions and do it intelligently. And a lot of that information you can get from patreon.com because we have about 2.5 years worth of data. And I would suggest that you do that if you're curious because it's something that's important because real data input into artificial intelligence, for instance, is something that people should be aware of, should be careful of. But the truth is that price controls, Iraq is doing that. Is that a component of a revaluation? It surely can be. So dig into it and take a look at it. Another thing too is that we have to talk about is that all these little bits and pieces that we've been seeing over time is a reflection of what's taking place in the digital transformation. The Escada system, for instance, okay? If you're going to be doing any research, you got to keep in mind that Iraq is truly not just oil anymore. It's about non-oil resources. And that's a whole lot of streaming of data that if you're going to be researching, is that you have to include all of it. And that even includes banking. It includes banking restructuring. It includes all kinds of different things. It includes the fact that they have components of entities like Oliver Wyman, Ernst & Young, okay? All of those professional institutions have been working with Iraq for many, many years. And that's why this is so important, is because that data, that if you're looking into it, will give you a bigger, broader picture of why I do what I do and why I'm so bullish, and that's why I keep doing this. I totally believe 100% that Iraq is going through a digital transformation. I believe that Al-Awlaq hasn't been denied that he's not going to delete the zeros from the exchange rate. The project still exists. All of those things, they haven't been denied. But anyway, keep in mind, all of these things are coming into play while we're here tonight, and have been. I guess, there's a lot of people that are worn out and tired, and, they seem to think that we've heard this before, but to be fair, if you really come into Patreon and you read our study, those of you out there that haven't been able to or aren't fully up to date and read, you'll understand that the data is powerful, because this is a complex issue with Iraq and the world. And remember that it's not all about Iraq, but it is about Iraq. And they're just going to be a key component into integrating into the international financial system. So this article tonight is called "The U.S. Tariffs Are Important to Activate the Joint Agreement and Will Not Affect the Volume of Trade." So we know that Iraq and the United States are talking about these things. It says the customs duties imposed by the United States on Iraqi products can be transformed from a challenge into a real opportunity to support the national economy and enhance joint cooperation. It says the new customs duties do not currently have a direct impact on the volume of trade between Iraq and the United States, given that Iraqi exports to the United States primarily rely on oil, which is not subject to such duties. So we've seen that. So these tariffs that have been in the news really aren't going to totally impact Iraq in a bad way. It's actually, if you remember, Saleh, Mohammed Saleh, advisor to the Prime Minister, even stated so much. And then Al-Nusri has even written a book that specifically outlines all the things that we have done, they have done, forgive me, but that's powerful, because the fact is that it's been done. It's in past tense. So what we're waiting for, to me, is more reflection of maybe the legal authority to finish, or at least be coinciding with integration, because tomorrow's going to be a big day. You have the Fed now tomorrow, and you have the court case with Taif Sami, finance minister, Al-Sundani in the Federal Supreme Court, the FSC. So if you guys don't know that, just so you know. But anyway, they go on and say that the Iraqi Development Fund, whose idea was proposed about 7 months ago from today, cooperation with the American side is considered one of the most important tools for encouraging trade exchange and joint investment. So one of the largest economies in the world is going to join in partnership with Iraq. Really? At 1310. Well, they've been involved for a long time, but guess who's been involved? The largest stakeholders in the world have been involved with Iraq to get them to where they are today. And that is part of this topic tonight. It says work is underway to reach advanced stages in establishing the fund. I'm pretty sure it's already been there, but it says provide a direct channel linking importers with American products and in turn enable American investors to enter the Iraqi market. I think we all know that the United States has been in their market, but it might be more prevalent for upcoming companies. You know, for instance, it's not the largest institutions that have the ability to take risk. Oil companies, energy companies, they have a lot of money. They're not going to invest either, but now it's, you know, okay for the little guys to come in. That's how I see it. It says, we view these developments as an important opportunity to strengthen the national economy and open broader horizons, other cooperations. So it says, horizons for cooperation and partnership between Iraq and the United States in a way that serves the interest of both parties. And so that's what they're telling you, is that they're now they're being more public to our public here in the United States, and I'm assuming abroad, Europe, everywhere else around the world. You know, Australia, Canada, you know, Asia, I think even China and Russia. Those countries pretty much see the writing on the wall. Another thing to come back to is that Iraq has foreign reserves, and they talk about sovereign wealth funds. I'm not talking about that tonight, but they have sovereign wealth funds. The United States has openly stated that they're willing to do a sovereign wealth fund for the United States of America, and that happened early on, with a few months back, right? But here, the value of gold in Iraq's precious metal reserves has increased. And so why is that important? Well, Iraq's gold that she's increased over time, over the last few years, has gone from like 98 tons to 110 tons, or even to 146 tons. The value of gold has increased. Look, one of the things, what I remember, you guys, one of the things that I remember is time back, I remember when gold was at 400 or 275. And it's really important to see that, you know, when they talk about the store of value, and central banks do pay attention to a store of value because they put it in their reserves. They use that stuff. And back to the sovereign wealth funds, one of the things that they do, is you guys should look and see on your own, if I'm right, is that they use, for sovereign wealth funds around the world, is they use foreign currencies. The dollar is a foreign currency to Iraq. The dinar is going to be a foreign currency to the United States. If you think about it, it's like, well, if they have a 1310 exchange rate and they're going to go to something different, which is significantly larger, something similar to the Arab accounting dinar, for instance, just for instance, you can see that it's going to have an impact on things. Just as the SDR basket, which is the special drawing rights from the IMF, all those countries that so happen to hold a currencies or many foreign currencies get a boost because there is an adjustment. You're going to find that the SDR is going to be probably a little more valuable in unit cost to the dollar, for instance, right? And so therefore, if they're going to use that unit, which is the SDR, and they have a number for it, you can Google it, IMF SDR, check that out, currency price. You're going to see that it fluctuates. It's no different than the US dollar on the Forex, or the euro, or the yuan, or the yen, or any of those. They fluctuate a little bit. Same with the SDR. One of the things you're going to find out, though, if you really do some digging, is the AAD is difficult to figure out which value they're putting at it. But they do state that, my last check was that they can do 3 times the SDR. Iraq was part of that. If that's an integration place that they do because of their trading partners, the 29 countries, the Arab League, all the approvals, all those things, keep that in mind, because that's powerful. And then you think back and say, well, wait a minute, so they've been increasing their reserves. It sounds like they've got a lot of things handled on corruption. They're clawing back money. You got a lot of people in the country getting nervous because a lot of people are getting arrested for fraud and all these different things. You got to remember, all that money, if they claw it back on all the assets, the real estate, whether it's in London or whether it's in the United States or whether it's in China, doesn't matter. If they bring it back, there's value to it. And that goes back to the Treasury, and that supports a real effective exchange rate. So all of those things come into play. But check it out. Central banks buy gold reserves for many reasons. One reason is to hedge against fiat currency, among many other things. Hedging for inflation, okay? Countries may decide, like Iraq, to hedge for support to the value of their real effective exchange rate. That's part of what they do. Look, since I've been around, since I think I've been where I am located since 1994, gold was only about $275 in 1999, and then again in 2001, and it's at $3,300. You don't think the central banks know that? Of course they do. That's what they do. They pay close attention to that. They put it in their reserves. And so this article is basically suggesting that since they've done all that, their value has increased. That's the point. Their value has increased because the price of gold has increased. And so those 146 tons that they bought a lot cheaper, but think about that, for 20 years ago, all that gold that they've been sitting on, look at the profit they're making on that. It's fascinating. So anyway, this next article is called "The Ministry of Trade Launches the Largest Price Monitoring Campaign in Markets in Baghdad and the Governance." So they're going to be doing what I was talking about, curbing people that are manipulating prices. And this is actually interesting enough. If you do your search, you're going to find that it is a component that is risky component. It's risky. But look, Iraq has accomplished all the things. If you look at what the risks and weights and measures are, Iraq has done all of the things, well, many of those things that are necessary to be able to defend what they're going to do in that action, which I believe they're going to do. Not necessarily factual, but that's what I believe. It says, "We will not allow the prices of goods to rise or any cases of commercial or industrial fraud or monopoly to occur, and these violations will be confronted with firmness." The campaign was launched today in Baghdad and all the governance. And so I just did a little bit of research, and just for what it's worth, it says here, it says, "Stabilizing the economy. During a revaluation, especially of currency or economic policies, markets can become volatile. Price spikes for essential goods, food, fuel, medicine, all the things that they're talking about, can erode public trust and exacerbate inequality." It says controlling prices may prevent profiteering and ensure affordability for the basic necessities. Isn't that what they're all about? Iraq is all about trying to take care of their citizens. That's what they say. Preventing inflationary spirals. It says currency revaluation or economic restructuring can lead to inflation if not managed carefully. Okay. It says devalued currencies increases import costs. Okay. It says temporary price controls. So if it's temporary, it says controls on critical goods can act as a buffer to prevent runaway inflation while new policies settle. So one of those things that what has Iraq done? Iraq has very, very low inflation. One of those key components for a revaluation, in my view. It says protecting vulnerable populations, low income. Groups are hit hardest by sudden price increases. Price controls can shield them from immediate hardship, maintaining social stability during a transition period. So in other words, if they revalue their currency, they have tools in place to be able to help with that. That's my view. Okay. Maintaining public support. Economic reforms often face resistance if they cause immediate price shocks. Iraq changing the value of their currency, or any other country in the world, when they do that, it has price shocks. Look at Switzerland. It's a big deal. Okay. It says controlling prices can buy time for the government to communicate the long-term benefits of a revaluation, reducing public unrest. And then I got another snippet that says, as of July 2025, Iraq's black market for the US dollars, which is likely under 5% of the trade, which was insignificant per se, diminished to U.S. restrictions on dollar flows. So the Central Bank of Iraq's oversight and digitization efforts, which is talking about electronic trade platforms, dinar-only mandates. It says this aligns with potential currency revaluation as a weaker black market supports a stable, real effective exchange rate by reducing speculative pressures and reserve outflows. Price controls may be less necessary as official channels meet most imports and non-oil revenues. And again, what are they? They're from taxes, tariffs, and the potential of that $16 trillion that we've talked about. The fund can support them to do what they're doing. So that's just snippets that I found. I think it's good education. So this next article that we have today is called "The Kurdistan Regional Government Confirms Its Continued Efforts with Baghdad to Resolve the Salary Crisis." I got a strong feeling about this in the sense that the Kurdistan region has probably got egg on their face, and they're trying to save face. That's what I believe. It says the Kurdistan Regional Government, the Prime Minister Masroor Barzani, he says the meeting discussed that they had today, I believe, discussed recent efforts and the results of dialogues and negotiation with the federal government regarding salaries and benefits for the citizens in the Kurdistan region, as well as the need to expedite the resumption of the region's oil exports. Well, I'm pretty sure if they were really serious about it, they probably would have done it a long time ago. However, I think they have their backs to the wall. It says the Kurdistan regional It says regional government stated in a statement that the federal government was to reach a solution to the problem. That's what they're working on. It says it would also note that there's a unified and consistent position regarding ensuring payment of salaries and benefits to the people of Kurdistan, as this is a legal authority, constitutional right for those entitled to it. Well, right. So you could have done that 4 or 5 years ago, but you didn't. But anyway, it says the Kurdistan Regional Government also reiterated its commitment to joining efforts to end the crisis, expressing regret that it has had a profoundly negative impact on the lives and livelihoods of the region's employees and citizens in general. So today they're telling you that they regret all this, but they were also yesterday and the day before and so forth, saying that it was the government's problem. But now they regret and they reiterate it, that it's a problem. So I got a good strong feeling that they know that the Constitution is going to be binding by the federal Supreme Court. And then we have that potentially tomorrow on the table. Okay? And that's big. But I think this is fascinating, is that it looks like the Kurdistan region is capitulating, and that's cool. It says here the government affirmed, this is the Kurdistan region, issues a priority for its work. So now it's like, whoa, it's a priority. And that it's continuing its efforts to find a radical solution. Really? So what kind of a radical solution is the Kurds going to do other than say, let's go? I don't know. But anyway, here's another article. It says the federal court is the supreme constitutional authority and its decisions are final and binding, like I just mentioned. It says greater integration and cooperation between the legislative and judicial institutions consolidate the values of justice and law. Reiterating, funny, they use the same word. The House of Representatives supports the efforts undertaken by the federal Supreme Court, preserve the country's democratic experience. And this gentleman says, all decisions issued by the federal court are final and conclusive, given the court's status as the supreme constitutional authority in the country, praising its role in assuring the separation of powers and preserving the rights and freedoms of the people. So isn't that funny? Because they've been kind of bucking the system, trying to milk everything they can possibly get, trying to do all the things that whatever they're trying to do, it's not good for the citizens, but now they're finally coming on board because why? The court is going to have the binding decision. We've been saying that in Patreon for quite some time. So anyway, one more thing, or two more things possibly, that's about it. Customs discussed with ICATA, electronic systems, the borders, the procedures for unifying the customs systems between the central and the regional authorities. So isn't that interesting? So these guys are somewhat capitulating, and now they're talking about they're going to have procedures for unifying the customs system. Isn't that where the non-oil revenues come from also, besides oil? I think it does. It says the Director General of the Authority of Customs, Daoud, he chaired a meeting in Baghdad that included a delegation from the Kurdistan region's customs, a representative of the Ministry of Interior in the region, and the national team of the ICATA project. Forgive me, World Bank. Sorry. But anyway, No, UN, sorry about that. Discuss steps for institutional integration and unification of customs procedures, etc. within the region. It says, though, that the next phase will witness a direct link, and an immediate exchange of customs information between the two parties via a unified technical platform that will contribute to accelerating procedures, powerful language they're using, raising the level of transparency and achieving fairness in the evaluation and valuation of goods. Doesn't that sound like something that the WTO does too? Yeah, pretty much it does. And so here we go. It says that this move comes as the part of the government's program to address economic reform, combat corruption, reduce the waste of public funds by building an integrated digital system that ensures standardization, controls the movements of goods, and increases revenues across all customs centers. So that's pretty fascinating because why? Because if they're going to join the international financial system, they're going to have to be on board. And we also know that there's going to be not only a court case tomorrow, but we have the Fed now tomorrow, which is the ISO 20022. That's for cross-border payments. And migration into the system needs to be done tomorrow. And so that's going to be about cross-border payments. And it's a reflective of trades and goods coming across borders, is it not? I think so. So let's pay attention to that. Anyway, this last thing I'm going to say is that the financial expert comes out and says the dollar's stability depends on calm abroad and the Federal Reserve. This financial expert, his name is Nouri, confirms the stability of the dollar exchange rate in the local market. The local market is a black market. It's an illegal market, and it's relatively insignificant. But it could still be a risk when it comes to our revaluation. Okay, the internal economic situation is moving in a direction that provides a kind of a balance in the exchange market, thanks to the measures of the central bank. It says external factors such as the developments in the security situation in the region and policies of the United States Federal Reserve, it still casts a shadow over market activity and could lead to potential changes towards an increase in the exchange rate in the future. Interesting that they're talking about this, but let me finish. Any external escalation or sudden challenge or change in global monetary policies could quickly reflect or could quickly be reflected in the financial markets in Iraq. And so when they say things can happen, in other words, the parallel market is on warning. It's like they've been warned long enough. They've reduced the dollar from exchange. It's basically been said by Saleh and or Nasiri to be ineffective and be almost like null and void in a comparison for the concept of moving into the international financial system. It's irrelevant. So they've probably braced themselves by many tools that they have. All of the things that we've been talking about over the last couple of years have now shown themselves to be able to they're comfortable with where they are. So, excuse me. Basically, an external escalation or a sudden change in global monetary policies, If we think about what that means is that if there's going to be an adjustment when, for instance, a country changes the value of the currency, all the countries surrounding them are going to be having an impact. And so they need to adjust for that, and they probably already have. And that's probably why everybody's pretty much paying attention. And everybody's been pretty much warned because the news is out. What we read, that's what I do, is I bring the news. And I think that's what we're seeing. So basically, this is true to me, what they're saying. An exchange rate could happen in a moment's notice. To me, that's true. It should not be surprising. It should not be surprising whatsoever. The parallel market, like I said, is an illegal market. It's become so insignificant, but they will be affected. Those that have not changed and done things on the proper level that they're talking about. For instance, today there was an article about 35 banks, it was at 14, now it's 35 banks that may not make it. And unfortunately, sadly, they're going to shoot it out there to the fact that the citizens are going to be hurt. Well, of course some citizens are going to get hurt, because if they're because they're being suppressed in the illegal market because they don't have any choice in the matter, yeah, it could be a lot of different things. But the bottom line is that they're talking about significant change and an impact that could come at any time. So they've got warning. So all of these things that we've talked about tonight are really powerful. They do have a component of a revaluation is in the wind. It looks like it completely is, because all these things, really, if you do the research, you're going to find out that I just didn't make this up. It's pretty fascinating. It's really good. I think it is. So hey, if you'd like, join us with patreon.com. Come in and see the super work that Super Samson does, and you're going to be welcomed by our wonderful Gigi, and you'll get my analysis, and that's what we do. So if you like my content, hit the like button and subscribe. And again, thank you guys for Zelle, PayPal, and Venmo, because a lot of work, as it is, to be able to do what we do, it takes tens of hours to do a lot of this work, because you got people in all these different time zones. So keep that in mind. But thank you, appreciate it, and we'll see you guys soon.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.